Hey everyone, this is our first impressions after CLAT, and first of all, congratulations. It's over now. अब आराम करो, थोड़ा आइसक्रीम खाओ, परिवार वालों के साथ घूमो, मजे करो, chill करो थोड़ा सा. But before we formally begin, just type in like what was your take on the CLAT paper. We'll discuss that as well. How do you feel? How was the paper? Yeah. We will discuss cutoffs. We will discuss good attempts. We will discuss great attempts as well. All of that.
Yeah.
But firstly, we want to gauge what was your opinion of the CLAT paper. Uh, how how did you find the sections? How was the paper in general? What are you expecting?
And
And
if you don't want to like talk about the paper, you can just vent out
yeah, I
whatever you are
mean,
feeling in the chat
we just
box.
want to know how do you feel, like ठीक है, like just don't use unparliamentary language, that's it. Apart from that, we're open to anything. I mean, you can DM us that if you want. Yeah, I mean, come on, FIFA तो पूछेंगे ना, मतलब आज
FIFA
फाइनल है.
was
हाँ, हम लोग आज फाइनल देखना अच्छे से जाके
it
चिल
was
करना.
lengthy. Okay,
Okay.
somebody says it was lengthy.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, actually, do you want to like start off with how like you met people at NLS? NLS
Yeah.
was a center. What was your? I mean, let's just talk about how did you feel seeing other people write the CLAT paper?
Right. So, like, we were just talking about this only, me and Bhargav. Like, we went out and we saw like people are like cramming together and कुछ बोल रहे हैं कि भाई, like they found कि बहुत लेंदी है पेपर, ऐसा है वैसा है, and we were getting nostalgia कि भाई हमें भी यही feelings थी and all of that, and seeing that was like कि okay, let's see what happens. And like from the people that I interacted with, the general feedback which I got was that GK tough tha, DI tough tha because उसमें questions लंबे थे. Legal was moderate, but then again उसमें भी legal में भी questions कुछ कुछ बहुत ही लंबे थे and all of that. But from what I've heard is that सबको CR और English तो easy लगा. So I think we have some consensus around that, and see, it's fine. I understand बहुत random feelings हैं सबकी. I get it. Some of you may not be so happy with your performance, but let's just hold that thought a bit. But of course, you can vent out whatever you're feeling to us. We're open to that. We've been listening to a lot of aspirants. अभी हम लोग बाहर गए थे. We had a couple of conversations. We had a mixed reaction as well. Kuch ka like, some have done well. Some are saying ki we are not happy with our performance. But I would say ki guys, you've put in a lot of efforts, and those efforts count. And trust me, it's not like you're putting like इतना भाव मत दो क्लैट को, ठीक है. It's a very substandard paper, so relax, chill, right? So I had a good, I mean, I've been going through your comments, and GK को तो like काफी
We'll talk
गालियां
about
पड़ी हैं.
it.
We will obviously talk about that. बहुत गालियां पड़ी हैं GK को. um right, we'll come to attempts as well. We'll come to what chances and all of that. So I think we should begin with the session now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you some context, guys. So, okay, so the first, I mean, the initially we did not plan to take this session, but I think what we actually saw on YouTube was a lot of coachings are taking these sessions, and frankly, I really don't understand why they are basically inflating the good attempts and how they're inflating all the good score and all of that. The thing is, I think because we both have been in that situation where we have written this particular and a similar paper just 6 months back, we understand that the point of view from which a coaching operates and the coaching predicts its cutoffs and good attempts and all of that comes from a very subject matter point of views, right? So that the person who is basically the person who basically probably makes the English section for a particular coaching will go ahead and solve the English section and would only talk about English. But I think as aspirants, you are supposed to basically know exactly what a prior aspirant or what other people who gave the paper along with you basically thought of the paper. Right. So I think that was basically the reason why we need to take this, and the reason why we need to tell you that you might basically hear some very reputed coaching saying that a 140 is a very good attempt, but trust me, that's not the case, right? Because I remember after my CLAT paper, though I was confident, I looked at like one of these sessions, and in that, one person literally said that if you don't score 120, there is no chance for you to get in NLS. And the best part is there is only one person the best part is there is only one person in NLS who scored above 120, right? So I think we will give you a very realistic picture, right? We will not shy away from telling you that if say a attempt of 70 questions is a bad attempt or a good attempt, but yeah, trust us in terms of we will give you a very realistic answers.
Yeah.
Right, so I think we can begin.
Yeah, also just one thing, guys, just take this also into account that we have not given the paper as such कि हम 2 घंटा बैठ के उसी environment में we are giving the paper. So it might be that what you might feel ये good attempt होता, it might not match with ours. But the thing is, what we're doing right now is basically to give you some picture कि हाँ भाई ऐसा ऐसा हमें लगता है ये good attempts थे and all. Of course, you're free to disagree. No problem with that. And overall, like the entire objective of this session is कि भाई हो गया CLAT. अब जाओ मैच देख के आओ फैमिली के साथ अच्छे से एंजॉय करो. It's okay. बाकी जो रिजल्ट आएगा वो तब की तब देखा जाएगा.
Yeah, those are basically those are things that are not in your hands right now, right? If you messed up your paper big time, I still think that there are better exams, like basically in like scheduled in May, June, July, and you could basically target those also. But right now, in the next 15 days are not the time to think about it.
Right.
It's the time to basically give your mind some space to rejuvenate. Give it some time to watch the Netflix shows that you want to watch, and just stay calm, right? Even if it went very well, it's again up to you to stay calm and just do the other things that you're supposed to do, something that you did not do
Right.
while you were preparing for CLAT. uh,
So
Okay.
let's start with English.
Okay, we'll go section wise. We'll go in the order in which the paper is created. So we'll basically start with English, then we'll talk about GK, then we'll talk about legal, then we talk about logical, and towards the end we will talk about the data interpretation section. Akshat, I think you can talk about English section.
Yeah. So I think English में we don't have, like, we have quite a good consensus कि भाई English was easy, which is very fair. Like there were like the standard questions, inference based questions, and most of them were like, you know, specific detail only. Like you just had to figure out कि वो उस चीज के बारे में बात कहाँ पे करी हुई है, and you can come up with the answer. And what I felt was like I went through the question paper and all the I think I would again go back to a strategy which I really love, and that was my strategy for CLAT. कि भाई if you're confused with the question, eliminate the wrong options. That is easier than finding the correct option. So I think that was sorted in English paper as well. Another point was कि they have given grammar wale questions as well. So like I saw like there was
Okay.
one that synonyms question. It was very easy in fact. And then there were questions again on the basis of poetic devices. There was one question, and there was one very peculiar question which thought should not have been in English. Was that what was the full form of BCE? Which is, I mean, see, that's very common knowledge, fair, but it does not belong in the English section. Like we all know it's okay, it's before common era, fine, but it should not have been asked in English section. That's my opinion. But otherwise, I think the questions were very like similar to what we've been experiencing throughout this time. And in fact, I think you guys must have faced much more difficult questions in NLTI mocks, and even, you know, lengthier passages as well. So, I mean, I have reiterated this to all my mentees and everyone as well, that the reason why we give you lengthy mocks is because of the fact that you can manage the simpler ones in the actual paper, and that is what happened. Like I think the paragraphs were not very long, or I hope we have a consensus on that. Does someone want to disagree? You can type it in the chat box. But apart from that, I think the English was quite a doable section. In fact, it was quite a relief, given we'll come to the other sections which were like might have boggled you. But English was a relief, so that's a good thing. Now, the only catch with English is that, see, this is a catch with, in fact, I think all the subjective sections, that it might happen that you arrive at an answer, you know that answer is right, but the consortium may not agree with you. And no matter how many grievances you raise, they're not going to agree with you. They have a very big ego. So that is the only place where you might lose your accuracy. But apart from that, if you have a good attempt in English, you'll score well in English. So that's covered, I think.
Yeah, I think with respect to English section, I more or less feel what Akshat has to say. I think one thing that you could have basically done in that English section would have that if you thought that the other sections were kind of troublesome and you probably say needed like a slightly more time in the legal section, what I would have personally aimed is that I would probably finish this section a couple of minutes earlier because it seems like easier prima facie, right? So I would have probably, instead of giving 30 minutes, I would have probably given 26, 27 minutes in the English section, and I would have tried to basically get those 3 extra minutes for the legal section, which on the face of it might have looked a bit lengthy, right? So I think okay, Akshat, I think we'll talk about the good attempts and all of that alongside the
Yeah,
sections
yeah, yeah.
only.
Makes sense.
So okay, first is somebody who is targeting. I'll pose this as a question for you.
Right.
So say somebody who is targeting top three NLUs,
Hmm.
what a good attempt and correspondingly what a good score in the English section would have been.
See, according to me, you could have like since like the English section particularly was not lengthy as such. So maybe you could have attempted at least like 24, 25 questions. That's like a very good attempt I'm talking about,
Okay.
right? 24, 25 would be a good attempt, and from that, if you're able to score like 20 plus, basically like 21, 22, so that's a very big score because I don't see any major scope of getting your accuracy low if you've attempted questions. That is my take on that. So I think a 20 plus score would be like very good for this paper.
All right. So I think we have consensus in terms of English. A 24 plus attempts in the English section with a 24 plus attempts in the section with a 20 plus score is a fairly good score. All right. We'll come back, basically consolidate all of this, and we'll tell you a total attempt and a total good score thing also towards the
Yeah.
end. Uh, I think second thing that we need to really talk about, something that we also did like talked about for approximately like 30 minutes, is the GK section. I don't really know, but I think instead of doing so many compendiums, so many mocks, and so many other things, I thought if I had to like, if somebody would ask me how do you prepare for a section like this, I would have really told them please just like be very active on Twitter and know what's happening, right? I mean, there is no. I mean, Twitter would have given you better news and better ways to solve such questions than any of the compendiums, any of the books that anybody had to offer. But the good thing is that I think again, I took a session yesterday for NLTI on Google Meet, and I told them also that if the section is difficult for you, the section will be difficult for everybody, and I think that's the case with approximately everybody. Uh, I did talk to a few aspirants who were doing really well in mocks, and I think one thing that we found common was that what they tried to do is they first tried to look for the easy questions, which were like kind of like 7, 8 in the paper, and the remaining questions, what they did was they tried to go for say intelligent guesses, and second they tried to like, say probably come up with some reasoning like behind marking those answers. So I think one question that really came to our mind was related to the FIFA passage, in which, if you could open the
Yeah, yeah,
question,
sure.
in which it basically talked about, say, in which it basically talked about, it had options like Iddat, it had options like Khalifa, and all that. So I think in questions like that, you could have, applying general knowledge, you could have basically eliminated options like Iddat because Iddat is the period.
Meher, that.
Yeah, if anybody had some knowledge about like family law, you would know that iddat is that period after like divorce and all of that in the Muslim family, right? So those through those you
Yeah.
could eliminate options, and then you could have come up with certain answers.
So yeah, so the right answer was kafala, and like khalifa is like a very prestigious term in the
Yeah,
Islamic world. Khalifa is like the
head.
representative of God itself. So that's out of the box. So and Jazeera, like I mean, my intuitive guess was Jazeera is something related to Al Jazeera. So that's a good thing. So it cannot fit in this description of having an oppressive system of migrant laborers. This was my the way I approached this. I would have approached this question in the paper, but I understand. Like I mean, this is a very different ball game altogether. Where you're like, okay, should I take an intelligent guess or should I not? Which is fair. But yeah, there were a lot of questions in the paper which had to be solved this way. Like you eliminate options rather than actually knowing okay which is the right option. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think because I think we saw a lot of chat in the chat box that there are people who are appearing for 24 as well. So I think what you could basically understand from the GK section this year is that do not stick your like do not stick to compendiums, do not stick to your mock passages as the only source of doing GK, right? I think one thing that they have done this year is that they have been very uh, they have basically stuck to a very contemporary and uh, I don't want to use the word pop culture, but I
Yeah.
think they have basically stuck to like very contemporary issues, something like who is the son of the like, who which from which country does this person belong to, who is basically the president of like the son of the president and all that. I think you can only answer such questions if you have a very holistic understanding of things that are happening around you. You are not somebody who is all nerdy and all of that. You are instead somebody who relies on newspaper, who relies on Twitter, who relies on multiple sources to cover all of this, right? So I think that would really help. But yeah, for sure, we do understand that's the question. Okay, so if I had to categorize, the topics were relevant, the questions, the six seven
Yeah.
questions that they have given were not very relevant, and that is something that we will hands down agree to.
Agree, yeah. And I think one disadvantage, I mean, maybe sort of a difference, I would say rather, was that you guys had less passages in GK, whilst we used to get like 7 passages in GK for sure. So that, enhances our scope of, getting answers right, because you get more topics. And when you get more topics, you have an ability to answer more questions. The reason being, like, let's say you were completely unaware of one topic, so at least you have 6 others. But in your case, the problem was you only, I think, have 5 passages,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, you have five passages. If you're completely blindsided by one topic, then you basically left with 4 out of 5.
your attempt substantially decreases,
Yeah.
right? So I think so for us, right, while we were like sitting and discussing the paper, I was not really aware of say the first passage which say talked about the
Yeah.
FTX thing,
FTX, yeah.
right? Whereas on the other hand, Akshat probably did not have as much information regarding say FIFA, right? Let's assume that. So I think now the problem is that our attempts would substantially decrease because we don't have like information on the
Right.
7 questions of that
Right.
particular topic.
But like on that note as well, so let's say even if you don't have so the FTX collapse, basically it happened in November only, so it's a fairly recent topic. But even if you did not know about the FTX thing, you could have at least read the last four
Yeah.
or last at least 3 questions out of that passage itself. Because see, CBDC, it has been recently launched, so it's like it was like but obvious it's gonna come in GK exam of CLAT, because like the government has been talking about it since like the past year. And in fact, I remember when we were preparing for the CLAT
Budget.
exam, like we were specifically told कि भाई crypto से आएगा, GK तुम में तो आएगा ही आएगा,
Yeah, and I think
currency के बारे
that
में.
also one other reason was the 30% tax,
Right,
the
yeah, the
tax
tax
that
thing that
was
happened.
labeled on the
Yeah.
digital currencies, right? So I think again, topic relevant, questions relevant or not, we believe that the questions were not very relevant.
Yeah, totally agree.
I think you can get. I mean, we will try to send you a like more detailed analysis of the GK on the Telegram group because
Yeah.
we don't want to delve into like the topics and questions. But yeah, okay. Again, consensus bouncer section not very easy. We would categorize it again as moderate to difficult. But yeah, somebody who has had a holistic understanding of things that are happening around them, somebody who read not just say newspaper from the perspective of say doing GK, but read it like read the editorials, read critiques of all these things that are happening, would have attempted a few questions here and there that would basically give him an extra advantage over others. Akshat, top 3 colleges, good attempts
And
and good
score.
score.
So see, like I went through the GK paper, and like my attempt was at least like I would have gotten at least 23, 24. I would have attempted at least 23, 24, believing that okay, like some answers I definitely know, because not because maybe I would not have known it from the coaching material or something like that, but because I just know it, like random trivia, that's it. But I would have attempted 23, 24, and out of that, I think for the like a top 3 or something college, like a 20-ish score would be very good. Let
Well,
me tell you.
that's basically exceptional.
Yeah,
We are not categorizing it as a good score.
yeah,
We
it's a
would
very good score. Let me qualify that.
20 plus in GK this year is a very
Very
good
score.
score.
Yeah.
But okay, I would agree with the attempts. I don't really think that anybody on this planet, until unless you are marking absurd answers and you are just marking ABC, all of that, would have attempted more than 26, 27
Yeah,
questions
yeah.
accurately. But we do understand somebody with a good background, good comprehensive knowledge of GK, somebody who's keeping up themselves updated, would have attempted around 24 to 26 questions, and on a good accuracy he would have scored anything above 18. Anything above 18 is a very, very
Very
fantastic
good score,
score.
yeah. So, I mean, and don't worry about that. I mean, we at NLS, we have had like students who scored like 15, 16 in GK in the last year's paper,
Paper.
which was not, I would say, not as difficult as yours, your GK, but then, yeah, we also had our fair share of bounces. But, anyways, so I think we've dealt with GK enough, and we completely concede that the paper had, like, the GK section had its bounces, no doubt about that.
So final word, anything of 16, 17 is a very
Yeah, it's
good
a very
score.
good score. So if you're getting like 16, 17, great. Good job done.
Okay, next section, legal.
Yeah.
uh we'll start
So
with you.
cool. So legal, I believe the passages, some of them were like from the contemporary things as well, and some were very unconventional, not in the sense that they were difficult, but unconventional in the sense that they had newer topics. But I think you all must have been exposed to all those topics. Like I mean, there was one on consumer protection. I think like who is a consumer? Basically, that's the overarching question of the legal question. And but the only thing was that I felt that there were a couple of questions which were very lengthy. So the best strategy in such a scenario would have been, see, if you see like you've already read a passage which is like a couple of blocks long, and then you see another question in that passage which is again like half a page long. So it's pointless to read through all of that. Like just skip that and go ahead. So that would have been a better strategy at attempting the legal section in my, yeah, I totally admit it was a very lengthy legal section. That is why I'm saying that if you had you encountered such questions which are like one paragraph long or something like that, I mean, don't just skip them. Just come to the simpler ones which are like 3, 4 lines long.
But I think I would disagree a bit here, because I think the best part about the legal section is, I told this to like people yesterday also. Unlike logical or CR, where you're basically contesting with like four options, legal technically, I mean, you guys have wrote the paper, you would understand that technically you are contesting between only two options, right? Because the two options to eliminate are very easy. You are
Right.
only confused between two options. So I think if anybody who, so I think one very, very important thing would have been that if you say belong to a coaching and also NLTI, where we try to give you like lengthier passages in legal, and I think the same applied for the All India mock that happened on Thursday, where we tried to give you like a pretty lengthy questions and as well as the passages, that would have really helped you for somebody who has like done lengthier passages and understands how to attempt such a section. And I think interestingly, I think what the best thing would have been in legal is, you should have probably tried to attempt 36, 37 questions with a good accuracy. I think if you have done that, you could have like easily scored a 30, 30,
Yeah.
31, 32 easily. uh, I think legal, again, the only thing that is basically like that has basically put that section in question is the length. But I think apart from that, again, sample papers were like the sample paper questions were more or less on the same lines. You guys have been doing mocks that were on the same line, so I think you were more or less accustomed how to handle such a section. So I would, for top three, I would again go with like 35 plus attempts with a good accuracy, because I think legal is that one section where you could basically get very, very high accuracy. Uh, for top five, top three, I would rather say a good score would be anything above 30. And for top five, anything above, if you're scoring anything above in the range of 27 to 30, that is also a good score.
Yeah.
So I think Akshat would agree to that as well.
Yeah, I would totally would.
But yeah, I mean, it was basically, if you were looking for good attempts, substantially 34, 35 questions is definitely a very, very good attempt in the legal section. If you guys have any questions with respect to that, with respect to the first three sections, we'll take those and then we can move to the remaining two sections. Was English easier than 2022, or was it the
I
same?
would say yes.
Okay, I would rather say it was easier, not because in terms of any comparison, but in terms of, because you guys had already seen the 22 section, and you were preparing based on that, and you did not know how that panned out. You knew how that panned out, so I think that made the 23 English section comparatively easier, because I think the art section was comparatively still lengthier as compared to
Yeah, it
theirs.
was lengthy and like I mean, we had to juggle a lot between options. So like they were very close. My and you guys got more, grammatical
Yeah.
questions and on. And you, as far as I remember, there was no question on tones, right? Just correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I remember,
No, we did not have any grammar questions. We did
yeah,
have
we
a
did not
couple
have.
of
We had
tone
tone
questions.
questions. Because see, tone questions are very hard to get correct because I mean, I might feel that a tone is very different. You might feel that a tone is very different. It's very subjective. But the grammatical questions you can get right. So I think that
And you
was
could,
a good
so
thing.
say for example, who was running short of time and somebody who attempted to say the English towards the end, there is a higher chance for you to basically get questions right without even reading the passage, which was not in our case. We could not have gotten questions correct if we were not reading the passage. So I think that probably made the English section this year much easier.
Yeah.
So there were synonyms. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. I think more or less English, legal, and GK covered. Let's talk about the logical section then.
So I think again, like this was the feedback which I received from like a couple of the aspirants was that the logical section was also fairly simple, which is a relief given that you've been through a bouncer GK, you've been through lengthy. Yeah, I addressed that at BCE acronym. Yeah, but continuing with that, so you've been through a lengthy legal reasoning. So after that, doing logical seems like a lot of relief. However, I mean, I also came to know that a couple of people were unable to attempt. I mean, they left a few passages for logical because they did not have the time to go through all of them. But I would say, I mean, yeah, see, logical reasoning was one section which you could have aced really well. So it was quite an easy set, I would say. So,
But Akshat, I think there are only 5 passages in the logical section. I think that was a
yeah,
relief.
I mean, that is something quite interesting as well. Like, they've reduced the number of passages that they've made you read because you're able to, so even if you focus on the limited number of passages which you've been given, you read them thoroughly, you can at least get, yeah, so 6 questions each passage, which is fairly better. Uh, you don't have to read another passage at least, right? So like we had to go through 6 passages in CR, but you had to go through 5. So that was something which was
With
very
the
sorted.
like with both of, like, in the sense that the passages were of the same length in our case as well and your case as well, right? So I think that would have basically incentivized me to pick up that section and then make sure I attempt as many questions as possible, right? So uh, again, so I think because of that, and I think what I've heard is that unlike our year where the questions, 2 options are very close and you could not,
Exactly.
so this year that was not the case. I mean, people are telling me if you are reading the passage thoroughly, the questions are perfect CR based questions where there is one short answer for sure. I mean, there would be
That is a
exception,
relief.
that there would be exceptions of course, but if the majority of the section was like that, that would be a relief. And somebody say who like started off with the CR section would have like felt really really good, because he or she would have gotten that momentum. So I think with respect to CR, I think that was one. I mean, if I had to do
Yeah.
very well, I would have probably started with it. Again, for I mean, this might vary like from coachings and all, but I think we believe again a 24 plus attempt in the CR section with a good accuracy would have done the job. A very good score in the CR section for top three would somewhere be around 21 plus. Whereas, whereas in the sense that if you're targeting top five, top seven colleges, anything above 19 is a really good score in CR. But yeah, easy section as compared to what has happened in 2021-22. Easy section, and 21 plus score is a fairly good
Yeah.
score. uh, I think there won't be any questions with respect to CR because I think people are more or less relieved from that section at least. And I think the good thing was that the passages are also contemporary, right? There
Yeah, so
was no
that's a
fiction and all
that's
of that.
fine.
So fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, last section, Akshat.
Quant. Yeah, quant
Very
is
different, very different from
yeah,
our year.
agreed. I mean, see, the one thing which was consistent now, like something that we can settle on is that see, they're not gonna give you graphs, they're not gonna give you ready-made tables. All of that you have to do yourself. So that is something which was consistent even in this time's paper.
21, 22, 23.
Yeah. So even in our case, all the passages that we got, they were entirely information based. You had to make a table out of it, and they were mostly percentages or they were profit loss. Now here I saw that most of the passages were either based on that what is it averages, and also the concepts of percentages were involved. So I think we can settle on this that they're going to ask you questions from niche areas only, they're not going to go for set theory or probability or something like that. That is something that we know now. So now coming to the exact questions and all, so one thing that I felt in one of the particular sets was that the set itself was pretty lengthy, and there was one question also which was again like one paragraph long. So in such a situation you leave such questions. So I would say this beforehand only, that we have a lot of people at NLS, and I'm sure there were a lot of aspirants last year who attempted all 15 and got all 15 right. This was not a paper where you could have attempted all 15. This is my take, and get all 15 right, because that's simply a waste of time. If you're spending, like, you read a set, then you encounter a question which is another set in itself, that is pointless. You leave those questions and you won't move on to the next sets. And as far as the sets are concerned, I think they were pretty, like, understanding the sets was easy. So that is a plus point, that you could make out what you have to do, and you read the questions and you can solve. So I mean, like, from what I read, I think a very good attempt would be like 10 or 11 questions.
Very, very good.
Very good attempt, yeah. And out of that, scoring like 7 to 8 would be like a very decent score.
Yeah, I think above 7 is a very, very, I think I would probably characterize it, if you say game only 12, 13 minutes, and if you're getting a 7 plus score, I would say it's a phenomenal score.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic score. If somebody's even touching a double digit score in DI think, bro, you go, I mean, you covered something. I mean, you covered something that you left in GK. I mean, you basically managed to basically give you that extra room in the DI section. But yeah, I think if you're even getting a score of 5 and more, but if you believe that you have done the other 3 sections, which are the reading based sections, fairly well, I think that also does the job.
Yeah.
Right? The most important thing about the section was that if you ended up say giving 20 minutes to the section and attempted only 10 questions, I would rather say the section was created just to probably irritate you and bother you, right? So the important thing was to tell you that, okay, don't waste a lot of time there, because we have made sure that if the other 3 sections, that the reading based sections, are comparatively easy. So if somebody would have understood that after seeing the paper in the first glance, would have done fairly well. Yeah, so I think that basically solves all the questions that you might have had. So I think we will summarize that. We will summarize all of that for all of you. Summarize all of this for all of you. Good attempts in English. Anything above 24?
Yeah.
Very good attempts in English. Anything above 24? We will say that attempts in the range of 24 to 26 in GK is phenomenally good.
That is like
very,
way
very
too
high.
good. But even if you're like attempting like 22, 23 or something like that, something along those lines, that is also fairly good attempt in my opinion.
Okay, fair. What about legal? I would go with a 35 plus attempt to be very, very good.
I would not go with that, given the fact that there were some questions which were like very lengthy, which see,
Okay.
had I attempted the paper, I would have left them for
Okay.
sure. I'm not wasting my time on such questions. So like, okay, fine, like you could come around like 33 or 34 maybe.
Okay, 33. Let's take
Let's take it
33.
yeah.
And logic, I mean, again, we will go for a higher number of attempts,
Yeah,
because we
true.
feel that the section is easy. We'll go around for 24 attempts. 24 plus is a very good attempt. And with DI, very good attempts would be anything above 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, so and like here we are also like something we have a agreement on is that your scope of getting questions wrong, particularly in the reading based sections, is slightly less, given that they were fairly simple and you could arrive at an accurate answer easily. So taking that into account, which is why we are not expecting that if you've attempted a lot of questions in these sections, that your accuracy will fall behind a lot. So I don't think that's gonna happen, but let's see how it turns out.
Okay, now consolidating all of this will, yeah, I think this is
Hmm.
something that we agree on. English 22 plus attempts at this. Uh, Basically, English 22 plus attempts, Logic 23, Legal 30 plus, GK somewhere around 30, 23, 24, and DI 7 plus attempts are fairly good. Uh, Now, we need to add all of this to tell you what exactly a good attempt would look like. And I think when we add this, it somewhere comes around 45 plus 30, 75, and then 25, 100. So yeah, we would basically go ahead and say that with some flukes and some intelligent guesses, an attempt of 115 plus is a fairly good attempt. Uh, and I think that would basically seal. I mean, if you have done the paper properly, that would basically seal the deal for you. Yeah, do you think 115,
Yeah, I
120 questions
mean,
is
yeah,
fairly
that's
good?
that's a very good attempt. I mean, given the C, and if you've attempted so many questions, so given the fact that you could have gotten a lot of questions accurately right, I think that would boost your score a lot.
Okay. Now, our predictive, like our predicted cutoffs, considering NLS has increased seats and taking into account multiple other factors as well. Uh, we will only talk about the general cutoff because we really don't have much idea about the other cutoffs. I think nobody does because those are those are based on multiple factors, multiple external factors. Uh, okay, so with respect to the top three colleges, which is NLS, Nalsar, and NUJS slash NLU Jodhpur, we believe a 95 plus score is a very good score considering bouncers in GK and also a few
Hmm.
interesting questions in the DI section. This is a general thing. With respect to NLS, we will basically increase that a bit and would probably come around a consensus of
100 or some
99,
100 or something. So
99 to 100.
yeah,
Anything above 100, this time we believe the cutoffs might come down, and I think anything above 100 will seal the deal for you. That's what art, I mean, we might be wrong in our assessment, people might have done better, people might have done worse, but I think this is what we felt after discussing the paper thoroughly for like 1 hour, 1.5 hours. And I think if you agree, great. If you don't agree, feel free to tell us why you don't. We are susceptible to criticism,
yeah,
and we saw like a few people throwing flack at us, flack at other coachings also for multiple reasons. I think the you could do that considering that that was something that we didn't do particularly. But I think if you feel say GK did not cover these sources, you will have to realize that if it was not covered by us, it wasn't covered by anybody else also, right? So I
right.
think that basically answers that kind of flag that we received. With that, I mean, all we could say is that just stay calm, stay composed, wait for your results, and you really don't know what's there in the future for you, right? If you still feel that your paper got ruined, you messed up the paper, feel free to reach out to us. We'll guide you with like other options that are available to you. We will strongly suggest you to probably say apply for exams like Symbiosis, uh, something like MHCET, which offers like two very good colleges, which is GLC Mumbai and ILS Pune. And I still think that you still have like I mean,
Right.
a lot of good options still available and still available to you. So I think don't be very disheartened. And if it went well, I mean, we will take
Great.
your interview. We will take your interview for an LTI. Uh, yeah, so with that being said, 100 plus for NLS and 95 plus for all
90,
the
95. Yeah.
top 5 colleges of the country.
Right.
We are here to take a few questions if you have any.
Hmm.
uh,
Or you just want to talk about something in general, we're open to that. I would just reiterate one thing, that whatever we've said, the attempts and all of that, just take it with a pinch of salt. Don't hold us accountable that you guys said this attempts and all and something else turned out, because we can't, I mean, predict everything accurately, but this is what we feel should be the general trend of the paper. But let's see how all the aspirants have done, how, what are the
yeah,
results going to
because
be like. Yep.
we don't want to make tall claims like
Yeah,
whatever we are saying
exactly.
would 100% be like correct and
Hmm.
accurate. though we have tried to make sure like to reach the most optimal level of accuracy in this, uh, we have tried to take into account things like exam pressure.
Yeah.
We have tried to take into account the scope for making mistakes and all of that, and that's why we are saying anything above an attempt of 150, 115, 120 plus is a fairly good attempt, and for endless 9900 would basically be the cutoff. Now, if you have any questions, feel free. If you don't want to ask your questions here, let us know on the
Yeah.
Telegram group of NLTI. CL is saying
Yeah,
95
I
for endless.
mean,
I mean, again,
fair. I mean,
you will find that
yeah.
variation across multiple
See, the
institutes.
reason why we're putting NLS at 100 is because for like last time it was 105.
5.
Now, given the increase in seats and taking into account the difficulty of the paper, see, my assessment is in general, if you take the paper cumulatively, it was not. I mean, the entire difficulty does not change from the last year. The reason being, whatever difficulty you faced in GK and QT was taken care of by the easy passages in English and CR.
Logical.
Sorry, yeah, logical. So, taking everything holistically into account, I do not think that the difficulty of the paper per se will impact the cutoff. But yes, of course, since the seats have increased, so that's why I brought it down to 100, because last year I think it was 105 for the general category. So
104.7.
yeah, you would know better, right? So that's why we bring it down to 100. But yeah, I mean, fair. I mean, if CL is saying 95, great for them. Cool. I don't disagree.
Uh,
Anything else? Anyone? And also, just on a if there's nothing on a closing note, this is something. This is the last time we talk about CLAT. I mean, as in
as in
it's done.
23,
Yeah. I mean, the CLAT 2023 is done. Relax. I mean, hang out with your friends and all. Yeah, I mean, okay, so that issue is still there. I mean, centers don't
130.
have
Yeah.
consistency. Like some centers, some people get 5 minutes extra, some don't. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Trust me, it does not matter. It does not
Yeah,
have a substantial
because it's
impact.
all about the momentum that you
Yeah,
get in the paper. And somebody says 131 attempts, very good. I mean,
great, great.
very high attempts considering
Yeah,
if you would have had a good accuracy as well.
yeah.
Uh,
So,
I think with that we will close. I hope you guys understood from the exact point of view we were trying to explain things from you. Have a great evening. Please don't be sulky about the paper. Go watch the FIFA final. Don't
yeah,
be like Akshat. Be like both of us who would watch it together. Don't watch it alone, and just go and enjoy with friends, because I think that is something that you would not have done in
yeah.
last 1 week. And with that, we will end. Thank you for joining. Uh, all the best.
Bye bye.